days?
Yeah, I think yesterday was we did some nice things in the run game yesterday in terms of just blocking movement, something that we've really tried to emphasize over the course of like our winter workouts, if you will. I thought from a communication standpoint up front, just being connected, that's really what we're trying to work on up front is getting back to that connection and truly playing as one unit. And that comes with reps, but I thought they took a step yesterday. I thought today we threw and caught better. Yesterday we probably didn't throw and catch quite as well as we did today, but I thought you saw some explosive plays today, which was nice to see. We really tried to emphasize finishing on the perimeter with our receivers, and I think they did a nice job of that in that last period there of practice. So overall solid, from an operations standpoint, ball's not on the ground, we're not having procedure penalties. That's half the battle, especially when it's a kind of new offense still.
That center spot was so important 2 years ago with
Totally.
there. Do you like Eli still there? Are you going to experiment moving some guys around?
Yeah, I think we're moving a few guys around a little bit just to try some different things, right? So Eli, I thought, played really well in 2021 at guard a lot of the times. And you look at some of the things Jagger can do athletically, and you might be able to get some reps for those guys playing in different spots, which helps. And then it's nice to get Horsey playing back at his position that he's familiar with, so that really helps. And Marcus Cox has been a nice addition so far. Right tackle's competing.
Liam, there's been talks, about the offensive line, mindset, all that stuff. What are you and the staff looking for out here now that you're all actually in football activities?
Totally, the connection. Really, it's the connection, the communication, playing as one, playing together, being all on the same page. And if we make a mistake, we make it full speed. But we're trying to just slow ourselves down a little bit up front. We still want to come off the rock and be physical, but we're also trying to just slow ourselves down, being able to get our second step in the ground and be able to see that movement that so often last year, we struggled with. So that's been the biggest emphasis, is being able to block and handle movement. And I thought over the, yesterday specifically, that was a nice improvement.
What's the first impression of the tailbacks running football?
They didn't get a lot of ops yesterday. We kind of had some run alerts where we threw the throws as opposed to handing it off. But I think they did a nice job. I really like Coach Boulware. He does a great job, holds those guys accountable. Really, those guys are on the screws. But they didn't get a ton of ops. And anytime, I thought Chris wasn't a great practice player when I first got here. And you learn quick when the pads go on and they really have to tackle you. That's when you see running backs really kind of take it to the next level. So it's tough to evaluate, but I like what I see so far.
From off-field observation, what do you think of Ray Davis as a top leader?
Very high. Unbelievable background, story, perseverance. Kid that's just kind of battled through adversity his whole life and gotten, to be at the point that he's at in his life is extremely impressive. Mature kid. Really gets it, can communicate well with coaches, players alike. It's just nice to be around him. I think he's a great kid to be around.
What's the next step for Barry on today, from where you recruited them to what they did last year to what you were
growing physically? You got two freshman receivers playing at about $165, $170, $175. I think they learned the game is physical in the SEC, whether that's press and defeating man coverage, or whether that's going and blocking safeties. I think that they know they need to take the next step physically, and that's eating right, that's sleeping, that's how you're living off the field, that's doing all the little things to put yourself in a position to gain weight and gain muscle, because or else we're going to keep getting thrown around and be weak at the point of attack, which is obviously not what we're trying to get accomplished. So I saw some good things out of both those guys over the last 2 days, but it's all about their growth physically and maturing and reps.
Liam, what's the early impressions of Devin, and what's the biggest transition for him going from like spread RPO systems to your more kind of traditional
just
offense?
Operating under center.
Yeah.
That was something that he hadn't done, just very similar to like when I first got here. Joey and Bo and those guys hadn't really operated underneath the center. So just to take the snap and execute a handoff is new. It sounds pretty elementary to us, but when you don't do it and you're not used to operating that way, it is difficult. So that's been nice. He hasn't had many exchange issues. He's done a nice job with his footwork. So and turning your back to the defense. That's something when you play in the gun, you typically don't do that often, as opposed to when we are underneath the center and we play action, you turn your back to the defense, sometimes the picture can change. And being able to process that a little bit faster, that's been a little bit of a different thing for him.
Liam, Mark talked yesterday about wanting to get more out of Tavion Robinson this
Yep.
season. What are some of the things you're looking to see him improve?
Challenging him every day, both on and off the field, just being accountable, putting your head down, going to work. A lot of the things that Tavion can control don't have a ton to do with just catching a football, and just being accountable all the time, being there. I think he's responded over the last 2 days, just running your routes at full speed all the time. Even if you don't know the ball's not coming to you, it doesn't matter, right? You're just trying to help out your teammates and help out your buddy. And that's something that, we've been working on with him. And because once he touches the balls, good things can happen. And it's just about, hey, playing full speed without the ball in your hands, that's something that we're continuing to work on. But I've been pleased with some of the things that he's done over the last 2 days.
A lot's been made about the opportunity Isaiah Cummings has with
Yeah.
the depth at tight end. Obviously didn't go well for him last year.
Right.
What have you seen from him?
Yeah, I think just the amount of reps he's probably accumulated over the last 2 days. We actually had to taper down his reps today because his mileage was so high yesterday. Because we're so thin at the tight end position right now, he probably took too many reps, but he can't get enough good reps. So he'll absolutely be in a position to compete for that same type of role that he had, and then also expand upon that role. But love Isaiah, great kid. All he wants to do is do right. So really fun to work with him again.
What about Kamari Anderson, a freshman at the
Yeah.
position, getting a lot of?
He should be in high school right now. When you get those mid-year kids to come in at this point, things, their heads start spinning a little bit. But I really like the kid. He's got a great demeanor, good way about him. He's really focused in. Coach Vince does such a good job with those guys. So I've been pleased with Kamari so far.
Liam, what kind of things did you learn last year in the NFL that can help you be better, maybe than you were
Yeah.
2 years ago here?
Well, shoot, first time in a while in Los Angeles, we dealt with adversity. And we dealt with a lot of injuries, but with that comes, that's not an excuse. That's just, how do we pivot, right? It's not about the system. It's about trying to have the system fit the players that we have. And that was something that we really had to search for last year at times. It wasn't easy. It's the most, challenging year of my career in coaching. But you learn so much throughout that is, well, every day coming to work, putting your hat on and going to work every single day and having the right energy, right kind of focus, and be there for these players. But also schematically and conceptually, philosophically, how can we pivot? Because maybe what we're doing doesn't fit the skill set of the guys that have to play or are playing. We're not going to be the same offense that we were in 2021. We can't be, right? That's 10-3. We want to be better than that. And we have a different personnel now. So just being able to pivot a little bit and really evaluate the current roster and personnel a little bit more frequently to be able to get the most out of these players.
Liam, I don't know if it's reasonable to expect that you could actually get your entire offense installed in the spring, but do you have a goal that maybe by 75% of it?
I would say that's a
Yeah.
good number.
Yeah.
Like for instance, we installed for yesterday's practice, we installed for today's practice, and then Thursday we won't install at all. We'll combine 1 and 2, so that maybe they can play a little bit faster, have a good feel, because I just don't want to put too much in.
Yeah.
It's less about the volume, it's more about the fundamentals and technique for me in the spring.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, you're good.
I've got to. Okay, Jeff, hurry. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kind of piggybacking off
Yeah.
that, Mark had mentioned the walkthroughs yesterday being helpful in that
Yes.
regard. What has that done to put you kind of ahead of the game?
It's huge. We didn't really have a ton of that my first year. We had a good amount, but it was so new. And what was nice about, even though last year wasn't, whatever you could say about it, these kids know more football than they did when I first got here. In terms of being understanding a lot of these concepts that we'll run will be similar in some way, shape, or form. So there's been some carryover from the last 2 years, which is nice, but also just the amount of reps that we have gotten with the walkthroughs has been really helpful. So I appreciate those.
All right.